Hey Deck It Out Junior DIYers, welcome to your first month of your bi-monthly subscription box. In your subscription box this month, you will have 2 DIY wood projects and 1 sweet treat project. Your 2 projects are a photo block frame, which will showcase photos of you and your friends, which is so much fun. We have multiple stencils so that you can create this in any pattern you'd like. And I'll also teach you the Ombre Technique. Your second wood project is this mini sign, which is perfect for at home or even at school in your locker, as a friendly reminder to always be kind. I'm so excited that you have joined our DIY subscription box, and I look forward to crafting with you all year long. Let's get started. In your Deck It Out Junior bi-monthly subscription box, you will receive your 6x6 wood, your block of wood, 2 stencils, white sponges, your word cutout, sandpaper, glue, photo clip, screw, 5 colors of paint, and this craft paper that you can lay down as your placemat to craft on. On hand at home, what might be helpful to have with is a screwdriver, scissors, painter's tape, and baby wipes or a wet paper towel to clean up any paint on your hands or to clean up if you go off of your stencil. In this tutorial, I will be showing you 2 ways to paint your block. I will be showing you with the stencil, and I will also show you an ombre technique. Let's get started. These pieces of wood have been sanded for you, so they are ready to be painted. Your block of lumber right here will be your photo block. So you'll want to pick up your yellow sponge and then think about what color you're going to paint your background. You have 2 patterns, chevron or polka dots. Now for the polka dots, you can cut them apart and you can move them around wherever you would like. So there's no transfer tape on them because they're easy to pick up, put down, and then move. Okay, so after you paint. So we're gonna go through the painting technique and the stencil technique. If you're not gonna apply the stencil, that's okay. You could do an ombre look as well. So let's make, I'm gonna make my background white. So I'm just gonna put a little bit of paint on my sponge. And then I'm gonna paint on thin coats of paint until I am happy with the coverage. Now I would recommend that you paint all the sides and the back. And once you have 1 thin coat of paint on, make sure it's dry, and then you can start your 2nd coat of paint. And if you would like to speed up the process, you can always blow dry your block. Now, I'll tell you to do the same exact paint method to your smaller board. I'm gonna paint this one white as well. So I'm just gonna put the paint on and paint it across until you get the coverage that you would like. For this one, because it's probably gonna hang on your wall or sit on your dresser or be a gift for someone, I would paint the sides, not necessarily the back, but for sure the sides. So paint these until you get the coverage that you would like. Again, coming back for a 2nd or 3rd coat, but making sure that each layer of paint is dry before you put the next layer on. Okay, let's talk about the ombre technique. So we just painted the other side white, but I wanted to show you ombre. And ombre is the blending of the color from darker to lighter. You could also ombre different colors, so you could do a variety of colors throughout. But we're gonna blend, we will do the pink, this really pretty pink. So I'm gonna start out by putting on a nice coat of pink towards the top. Okay, and I'm The key to ombre is working with the paint when it's still wet. And when you have some paint to make it smooth, go smooth together or flow together. Okay, so I'm getting a lot of this pink on here, and I'm gonna bring it down to a white at the bottom. Okay, so this is a good amount of pink. And so I cut my yellow sponge that I was using earlier in half. And then I'm going to paint white at the bottom. And I want this to be a nice coat of white at the bottom, so I'll get a lot of white down here. And as I get closer, I'm gonna start to pull the pink, okay? Now this is where you kind of just keep playing because you want it to blend. So now I haven't given any more paint to my sponge. I'm really lightly just kind of moving my sponge over, and I'm achieving whatever look I'm gonna be happy with. Okay, so you want it to fade, right? From darker to lighter. And you'll just keep playing with the paint until you get it in a spot that you really like it. And I'm pretty satisfied actually with just this little bit. So right here I can see a line of white, so I'm just gonna come back in and kind of fade a little bit. I just don't wanna see the lines. So just keep playing with the paint, adding more paint until you get it to where you are happy with it. And that is ombre. While my photo block dries, I'm going to work on my small sign. You're going to want to make sure this is really dry, so I felt it, it's dry. I'm gonna use my sandpaper to lightly sand my board. So anytime you paint, before you apply the stencil, you need to sand. Okay, so I sanded it off. It will be really smooth. You'll wanna dust it off a little bit. And then we are going to use our stencil. I gotta transfer my tape here. So your stencil will have transfer tape on it, which is this clear tape. Because we've done this a couple days before you'll receive it. Smooth it out again, okay? And I'm just using my fist. This is where you'll flip it over, okay? And then you're gonna start in a corner. And you want the transfer tape, which is clear, and the blue stencil to stay together. And you want the white paper to come up clean. So I pull back from the corner, and do you see how it's I'm kind of pushing it down to form a crease. I'm gonna go slow because if any of the blue comes up, I wanna be able to push it right back down. With the stencil, you're creating a large sticker that you're gonna put on your board. Do you see how the D came up? I'm gonna push that D back down. And I'm gonna keep pulling back. My B, inside of the B came up. I'm gonna push that back down. Okay, my stencil is ready to be applied. I'm going to center it or put it where I'm happy with it. Now, if you wanted to take the be kind off, just cut it with the scissors and take that part off. If you wanna rearrange anything, feel free to. This is your project. We are excited to see what you come up with. Once I have it in a spot that I like, I always start in the middle and then work my way out and just have apply firm pressure to smooth it out. And then you'll repeat the process. Now, if the stencil comes up, just hold it down, okay? And the B came up again, so I'm gonna push it back down. The same concept applies, pulling it nice and slow, making sure all the blue stays down and the clear comes up without any of the blue, okay? And then take your hand and make sure that that stencil is pushed down. Okay, you can use this white paper here to dab your stencil off. And what I mean by that is, I'm gonna take my sponge and I'm gonna dip it in the pink paint. This is way too much paint, so less is more, okay? So I'm gonna dab it off over here. See how much paint that was? That was a lot of paint. Now I have very little paint, and now I'm just going to dab on my stencil line here, and I'm gonna fill in the entire space. Now when I need more paint, I'll come over to my like discard pile, my unload pile, and I'm going to fill up my sponge on there before I go back into my cup of paint. Okay, so now I'm just gonna dab, and you're going to just continue to do this process until your whole stencil is painted. And then we will talk about how to peel it up and what happens if there bleeds. So again, less is more. Thickness of tissue paper, that's all you'll need to put on. Use a different sponge every time you get a different color, okay? And just dab very, very gently. Okay, once you have painted your sign, a couple of things that while I was painting I noticed, when you do the hearts, you're gonna wanna really pinch the sponge or use the other side, the skinnier side, and just be really light on your paint. I painted mine black. So you might wanna use this side or really pinch this together so that when you're painting your hearts, you don't get on your other colors that you've painted. If that does happen, which it did happen to me, I used my baby wipe and I wiped it off and then I just repainted with my colored paint, whichever color it was. So the pink and the gold in this case. Okay, and once it's painted to your liking, you can peel it up when it's still wet as long as you don't have puddles. So I don't have any puddles, okay? And that's because we're doing less is more. Thickness of tissue paper. So then you can pull it up and you're gonna throw this part away. It's your stencil, right? You're gonna throw this part away. And then I would wait until the paint is dry to pull out the insides of your letters. In the studio, we pull them out with an X-Acto knife, but you could even use this screw that we included to kind of pick at the corner, and it pops right off. Or if you can use a tweezers or your fingernails, that would work too, but I would wait until it's dry, just so you don't smear any paint or have an issue there. Okay, so I'll wait until that's dry to pull that part out. But how cute is your first sign? This is awesome. I love this sign and such a good message. Okay, so your next project, we'll go back to the block. On this side, I'm just showing you again the ombre. On this side, I'm gonna show you the stencil work again. Okay, so your stencil will have your transfer tape on it, and I'm gonna do the chevron pattern. So again, do this on a flat surface, smooth it out, okay? You're gonna flip it over. Remember to go from the corner. You want the blue to stay with the clear, so you want the blue to stay down, and you want the white to come up clean, okay? And you'll peel it back. And if the stencil comes up, just kind of keep it down. Remember, it's a big sticker, so if it sticks to itself, you're kind of out of luck. It's gonna be ruined if the blue sticks to the blue. Okay, so you'll wanna be careful to not do that. If you don't want the chevron and you don't want the ombre technique, you can use the polka dots. And so for the polka dot technique, you'll just pick up your polka dot and you can dab the paint and move it to wherever you want on your board. This piece that we gave you is also long enough to go across, so if you wanted to kind of do a different pattern across your board, that would be really fun too. And just like before, if you need more dab space, you can. Otherwise, you still have one from your first sign. You're gonna wanna sand this one as well because again, we're applying the stencil. So sand it. If you want it more distressed looking, you'll wanna sand more, especially on those edges. That gives you that distressed look. Okay, and then again, brush it off. Apply your stencil. Okay, I'll apply my stencil here. And I'll smooth it down. Now, you'll see that the stencil kind of goes over the edge a little bit. If you want, you can smooth it down and just not paint there. It might be easier to pull it up, but I just wanted to make sure we gave you enough stencil so that you could arrange it the way you wanted, where you wanted the chevron bumps across the top or zigzags. Okay, so then you peel it up, leave everything behind, and then pick your 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 colors that you want to use, and then go ahead and paint this the same way. Load your sponge, unload your sponge. Make sure that this is pushed down, you don't have any air bubbles, and then go ahead and paint. You can do the whole thing one color, or you could do a different pattern of colors. Kind of up to you. Excited, we are excited to see what you come up with. So go ahead and paint this, and then we'll come back for our, to talk about the letters, and we will come back to put your clip on. All right, let's talk about your word friends cutout. I'm gonna paint mine black. So I'm gonna dip my sponge in the black, and I don't want a lot of paint, so I'm gonna dab it off. And then you're going to leave it in the cutout, just like I'm doing. And you're gonna do really light coats of paint because you don't want a lot of paint to get in the cracks, if any at all, because then the letters might stick, okay? So do this while your other signs are drying. Okay, we'll dab this paint because by the time this is done, if you use very light coats, chances are your black, which is sitting next to me here, will be dry as well. Okay, so the reason why you're painting it in here is because these are cut on a laser, so they have burned edges, and it just makes it a lot easier to paint. Now this is dry. If you want a more rustic look, again, you can take your sandpaper and sand over, and it kind of gives it that washed look, which is kind of fun, and it distresses it a little bit. Okay, while we're waiting for, I did get a little paint on here, which you can wash off. And while you're waiting for your word to dry, you'll also want to start thinking about where you're going to put your name, your word friends, and where you're going to put your clip. So I think I'm going to do mine like this. Okay, so while my word friends is drying, I'm going to use the screw, and I'm going to screw on my clip. Now you could rearrange it, and you could potentially have friends like this or diagonal. You can mix and match however you'd like, but I'm gonna do it just like this. And in the top of the clip, there's a hole. Okay, so you're gonna lay this down on the board like that. I use my hands to measure a lot in the studio. But if you want to get a ruler or tape measure, that's awesome too. You'll take your screwdriver. This is a self-piercing screw. So you're gonna put it through the hole, and then you're gonna apply pressure, and you're gonna push it through the wood, and then you'll start to feel it grab the wood, and then it will be screwed in. Okay, so just like that. Okay, so now you have your clip, and now my word friends is dry, which is awesome. So I'm going to take some painter's tape. If you don't have painter's tape, you could take masking tape, okay? Put it over the top, flip this over, and you're gonna peel this back. Okay, so now you see the word friends, but it's reversed, right? You're gonna take your glue, and you're gonna put the glue on the letters. Try not to get it anywhere but the letters, okay? And this is super glue. It will glue your fingers together, trust me. So be very careful with it. Don't get it on your skin. If you get it on your skin, go wash right away. And if you get it on the other parts that are not the letters, then that part will also stick to your board. Okay, so I have my glue on, and I'm going to flip it over, and I'm gonna lay it down at the bottom of my board. I'm aligning it from side to side and across the bottom. I'm gonna apply pressure, and I'm going to peel off the tape. Okay, and then I'm gonna carefully lift. I would start at either end, and I'm just gonna carefully lift. Now, if your letters come with you, push them back down. You could use like a pencil, or if you have your X-Acto knife, push them back down because they're snug in there, okay? And you want that glue to start adhering to your photo block. Okay, so my E kind of got stuck. My S got stuck. Okay. My F did too. Most of your letters should be in the right spot. So now you can, I just blowed some air, kind of just to get it off. And I'll pull out the middle of the D. And there you have it. Oh, they're good. They're starting to really set. So just give it a moment. That will take a little patience. You'll have some dust in there from when they were cut. And there you are. Oh my goodness, girls. Look at how cute these projects are. So these are your 2 projects in your Deck It Out Junior subscription box, and then you did get cookies, DIY cookie kit. So I hope you decorate your cookies and enjoy those, and then tag us on social media, share your pictures with us. I can't wait to see what color patterns you do on your projects. Hey DIYers, that was your first go at your projects. How did you do? These are pretty adorable. Thanks for joining me this month, and I hope to see you again in another month.